and thank you for joining me today for this Bob Ross inspired Pokemon battle. On your screen now you will see the Pokemon I will be using on the rated battle spot. Now unfortunately we can't see nicknames on the battle spot, we can just play along and imagine that they're fighting right there with us as the happy clouds, happy bushes, happy trees, and just the good thoughts and all the joy of painting that we can get from Bob Ross. So let's get into the battle spot and see what we're going to paint today. Now on the Pokemon Select screen we can see that he is using a rather fierce looking team with that Mega Kangaskhan and some other very powerful Pokemon. We need to choose our Pokemon wisely, and I think I'm going to start off with Good Day, our Smeargle, always going to be there for us and just show us that it's going to be a good day when you paint. We also have, we have to bring Bob Ross. Let's go and bring Mr. Ross to the battle, maybe find a good amount of damage from that head smash ability with that amazing, wonderful throw. And let's go and bring the Alomomola. We could potentially use the calmness of the blue to stop the ferocity of the red in that Talonflame, and let's go and begin this battle. Now as we can see, he does lead with a Rotom, and Rotom isn't going to be too much of a threat for Smeargle, but he does decide to switch out and go into his Kangaskhan. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to let the Sap Green just leave the brush and land right onto that Kangaskhan with the perfect accuracy of that Spore. So 100% chance to put him to sleep, and we are going to see at the end of the turn we gain speed. That is going to be absolutely remarkable for us, and it's going to mean our battle could go very, very smoothly. So as we go and just dust off our paintbrush right there, we're going to switch over to a little bit of white. Just gotta have that mesh with the colors and set up that lock on, and this is going to really bring the battle together. So after we use that lock on, we get to see that we are gaining accuracy, which is always a nice thing, and we lower our special defense. So we get a bit more risky with that frailty, but now all we have to do is mix a bit of phthalo blue and white to get this wonderful AC color and one-hit KO that Kangaskhan through the sheer cold. So it will be a one-hit KO and it will knock out the opponent, but I think it is going to be absolutely wonderful. So we just are going to go and set up a bit more. And now as Rotom comes onto the battlefield, so all we have to do is transition back over to our original Sap Green and just lightly, just ever so slightly, just 3 hairs and some air, brush over that Rotom and make sure we land that Spore right onto it. So the delicate little Spore is going to land on this Rotom, and now he's going to be asleep for quite some time, which does let us add more to this wonderful painting. As we can see, our Moody is going to activate once again just every single turn with that ability, and we are going to lose a little bit of speed. That's not the worst thing that could happen, but still is a little bit unfortunate as we go and we use the lock on. So lock on is going to set up a bit more and really bring the sweep together as we take aim at that Rotom, and Rotom just does not wake up. He's trying to take a happy little nap for himself, and it looks like it's going to be just fine for us. Now we are going to gain evasion but lose some speed as well, so our speed not looking that great, but evasion is a very almighty stat to have, so I'm okay with that. Now we get to see that he is changing up his strategy just a bit and switching into a happy cloud of his own in that Thundurus. So Thundurus is going to avoid that sheer cold since it doesn't have the lock on, but we'll go and touch up that cloud here in a bit as we go and lose some attack. Now with that speed drops and all that we're dealing with, I'm considering going for the agility or the Spore. I decided to Spore and try to put this Thundurus back to sleep, but we don't get to deal with this cloud just yet, and he goes back into his Rotom, who's still taking a happy little nap. So Smeargle Spore isn't going to do anything, and we get to see what Moody does once again. Special defense gain is going to be pretty good for us, and a defense drop. I don't think that matters because Thundurus is just a special attacker. They're not going to be using anything physical on us, so Rotom will wake up and get that Thunderbolt off, but with all of our special defenses, it's not going to do much of anything. I feel that this is a great time to set up an agility, and with that agility our speed is going to rise once again, and we see some special attack coming out of our Moody, but the accuracy drop is going to be a little interesting. Now with this, I decided to set up for that Spore once again now that we have those outspeeds secured, and we just get to wait and see what our opponent decides to do. So I will land my Spore onto the Rotom. Rotom is going to go back to sleep. He just loves taking a nap. What a rascal for that opponent right there, and we get to see how this ends up playing out. Now, I think he's going to switch into his Thundurus again. He's trying to play a really heavy switch game right now, and I haven't used PP ups, so I'm just going to go for the Spore. Going to be conservative on the few sheer colds I have left. So we're going to make that happen, and we're just going to dust off our paintbrush once again as we set up for his cloud coming in so we can go and touch up that cloud. Remember, there's no mistakes here, but I don't like the way that cloud looked, so we are going to have to just kind of change it around a little. And with that, we land the Spore, so a little bit of green toning to that cloud. You get to feel the reflection of the forest up into that, and now we get to see how this ends up playing out. Smeargle's Moody is going to raise some stats and lower some stats again, but those weren't really too impactful, and now we kind of get to see how the rest of this battle plays out. Now we can go for the lock-on, just in case. Now there is a chance that he can switch back into Rotom, but we will get that lock-on just to see what happens, and his Thundurus will remain fast asleep. So because of this, Smeargle is going to set up that lock-on, and now we get to see what happens. If he switches into his Rotom, there's still that 30% chance that he's going to get knocked out, and if he stays in, he's guaranteed to get knocked out. So we're going to see some more stats gain in our favor right now, and this could be pretty wonderful. Here's what we see if he ends up going into his Rotom, and after I lock in my move, it looks like he does go back into the Rotom. Still has a decent chance of getting knocked out by that Sheer Cold, so we're going to see what happens. And it looks like we mixed our colors just right, because it is going to land and just beat the devil out of him, which is going to be very favorable for us, as that one-hit KO does leave the opponent with little options left. Getting a surprise sweep. I was hoping we could use Bob Ross and a lot of the other joys and wonderful Pokemon that we have on our team, but it looks like this Smeargle is just having a good day all over the opponent, and it looks like we could actually do something pretty substantial right here. Now what I'm going to do is just immediately go into that lock-on, but he does wake up, does use his Prankster ability to secure a Thunder Wave onto us, and that is going to be a bit of a problem if we do get paralyzed, and oh my, we do get paralyzed, but we will still be okay. It looks like our stats are going to hold us through, and with the evasion raise, that could mean a lot of really good stuff for us. So the special defense drop means we do need the move to miss, and we are going to go for some Spore setup right now. So with that Spore, I'm thinking that we're going to be able to avoid his Thunderbolt, and then just get that Sap Green back in there. Very heavy on the Sap Green today, and I know it might clash with a little bit of the snowiness that we're adding from the Sheer Cold, but I think that this is a wonderful little world I've been building up throughout this battle, and your world can be whatever you want it to be. So we're going to go for that lock-on, and now the battle is pretty much locked up at this point. We're just going to let that lock-on gently leave the brush, as it looks like we might be coming to an end on this battle. The little clock on the wall says I do need to finish this one up, and with that lock-on, as long as I don't get paralyzed, we should be okay. So it looks like his happy little cloud is going to hopefully stay asleep this turn, and he wakes up. He does throw out the Thunderbolt, but it will avoid, and that is going to be a Sheer Cold. With that lock-on, it does secure us the KO, and now that I can look over at that clock, does show that we are out of time for today. Now, it might not have been too exciting with the colors that we used today, only having our Smeargle shine, but if you do want to see more Bob Ross battles, please leave a comment and a like, and tell me what you think about all of this. Just remember that anything is possible when it comes to a Pokemon battle, and to always have a good day. So happy painting, and God bless.